What are you even doing here? A male coworker spat those words at me. He seemed to be under a huge misunderstanding and was generally avoided by others in the office. But I tried to argue, but he cut me off. Yeah, save your excuses. You're just in the way, he dismissed me. He clearly didn't understand his position. Would he keep misunderstanding like this forever? My name is Amy. I'm a 35-year-old office worker. My father is the president of this company, having built up the company inherited from my grandfather. I work at his company, and although I'm based at the head office, we also have 3 subsidiaries. My father is a kind-hearted man, even going as far as to hire those struggling to find work. Those he hired this way often show gratitude by working hard and becoming valuable assets to the team. The reason we don't have extensive recruitment is because my father conducts interviews personally, one-on-one. After realizing that employees causing issues were often those he hadn't interviewed, he made it a point never to skip the president's interview, no matter how busy he got. Yet, even among these, there are people who misunderstand. One such person is Kevin, the son of a subsidiary president, and he is the worst. According to my father, he was previously employed elsewhere, but it seems his company went bankrupt and he lost his job. When the subsidiary president shared with my father that his son was struggling to find work, my father decided to interview him and ended up hiring him. At the time, they were short-staffed due to a recent resignation, and despite his interview performance, my father hired him due to the urgent need and the president's pleas. Then, complaints started emerging from that subsidiary, and word of these issues eventually reached me, who oversees talent development. Amy, have you heard? The president's son messed up another order. Hearing this, I finally brought the issue to my father. When I told him about the troubles Kevin was causing, my father asked me to go to the subsidiary and give him some guidance for a while. I hesitated, not expecting to be the one to go, but reluctantly agreed. And it was decided that I would be sent to the subsidiary. Starting from the next week, I began my stint at the subsidiary. So, I'd heard rumors, but I met Kevin, the president's son of our subsidiary, for the first time. I was here primarily to guide him, but officially I was in charge of everyone's training. Kevin was the same age as me. Because he was the son of a subsidiary's president, he seemed to carry some weight in the company. He reportedly respected his elders but looked down on his younger seniors and those of his own age. From his perspective, I was a woman of his age. There was no chance he'd listen to my guidance. But I knew I had to find a way, and it was racking my brain. The president of the subsidiary had introduced me to everyone as an instructor from the main office. Kevin gave me a glance. He probably didn't even conceive that he was in a position to be guided. From then on, I tried to engage with Kevin as much as possible, aiming to gradually establish a conducive environment for guidance. But of course, it wasn't easy. He made it quite clear he didn't enjoy talking to me, and we could hardly have a proper conversation. After I continued to approach him, he mocked, "What? You're into me or something?" I was upset, but I held my anger. Then he added, laughing, "You're just trying to get on my good side because I'm the president's son, right? Can't blame you. You're a part-timer." Little does he know, I'm the daughter of the president of the parent company. If anything, he should be the one trying to win me over. I cursed him silently and somehow managed to let it slide. The subsidiary president knows I'm the president's daughter, but he's been asked to keep it quiet. Fortunately, our last name is common, so nobody raises an eyebrow even though it's the same as the parent company president's. After that, Kevin continued to bug me. "Why are you here anyway? Don't bother with excuses. You're just a nuisance." Even though I explained why I was here, Kevin didn't seem to understand his position at all. The next day, I happened upon Kevin making an order. He wasn't following the established rules. When placing an order, please always get approval from your supervisor. I caught him before he hit the order button, so he clicked his tongue in response. "This is so simple. We don't need to get approved. But it's a rule to prevent mistakes." Our argument continued. Kevin wouldn't listen. But knowing he'd made several ordering mistakes, my tone naturally hardened. "Weren't there some errors with your orders recently? I was wondering why they kept happening, and now it seems clear." At my words, Kevin's mood soured visibly. I continued. "I'm here to help eliminate such small mistakes, so let's start making improvements right away. I'll make everyone aware, so you, Kevin, should take the lead in preventing errors." Now that I'd identified the cause of the ongoing ordering errors, I was confident they could be eliminated if everyone checked in the same way. However, Kevin, the subject of the warning, frowned. "Do you find it fun to single me out? Feel superior pointing out the president's son? You're such a ridiculous woman." What? I was so surprised I let out the sigh I'd been holding back. This man didn't pride himself on being competent at his work, he prided himself on being the president's son. That was ridiculous. I'd been addressing him formally all this time, and I didn't like how he spoke to me casually as if it were expected. But should I point it out? Does he not realize unless someone tells him? I thought about saying something, but I decided there was no point in picking a fight here, so for now, During break time that day, I was having lunch in the staff cafeteria when Kevin showed up. Hey, part-timers aren't allowed in here, you know. Scram! It seemed like he specifically sought me out to tell me this. Is that so? I played dumb, to which he scoffed. Obviously, it's a staff cafeteria. There's no way part-timers would be allowed in here. You'd realize that if you thought about it a bit. There's no such rule in our company. Part-timers are an important part of our workforce, and there shouldn't be any discrimination in treatment between them and full-time or contract employees. On top of that, I'm not even a part-timer, so why does he keep misunderstanding? Even though I tried to tell him I wasn't a part-timer, Kevin just sighed heavily and left. What a mood killer. This must have been how he's been treating part-timers all along. This probably explains why we've had such a high turnover rate with our part-timers recently. I'm starting to see the issues with the subsidiary. I'll have to compile these issues and submit them to the president of the subsidiary. As I was thinking about the future, the next day was unusually hectic at the subsidiary. Apparently, one of our business partners had not received their shipment. They were furious, and their president was on his way to our office. Just our luck, the president of our subsidiary was on a business trip. Kevin, who's in charge of the business partner, was expected to handle the situation. But I had a bad feeling about it. Before long, the president of the business partner arrived. Kevin was in charge of handling the situation, but he wasn't showing any remorse for his obvious mistake, which enraged the president. I couldn't just stand by and watch, so I bowed my head and went to greet the president. But Kevin shouted at me, "Aren't you just a part-timer? Get out of here! I don't care if you're some kind of educator from headquarters. Don't get above your station!" Even the president was taken aback, and the room fell silent. Taking advantage of the situation, Kevin dragged me out and said to the president, "This situation is all because of her from headquarters." He then turned to me and said, "This mess is all your fault. Fix it, starting with an apology. Go on, apologize," and he shoved me hard in the back. I stumbled forward and ended up kneeling, as if I was bowing down to the floor. What's worse, Kevin kicked me and said, "I said apologize," again. At that moment, the president of the business partner extended a hand to help me up, so I took his hand and stood up. Then I said to Kevin, "I'm not a part-timer. I'm an instructor from headquarters. What are you misunderstanding?" Kevin just stared at me and said, "Huh?" The next person to speak was the president of the business partner. "You're Amy, right?" This business partner originally had dealings with our headquarters, and through that connection, they started doing business with our subsidiary. The president of the business partner, Alex. He was my senior in college, and he took over his father's business when his father passed away a few years ago. Alex used to visit our headquarters, and since we attended the same university, we used to chat whenever we ran into each other. I hadn't seen him in a while, but I thought it would be quicker for me to deal with him when I learned that Alex was the one coming today. But I didn't expect this to happen when I went out to meet him. Kevin, who didn't know any of this, was dumbfounded. Hey, what's going on?" I ignored Kevin and explained the situation regarding the deal to Alex. Fortunately, I had already understood the situation before Alex arrived, and the item was in stock at our headquarters, so I was arranging for it to be delivered from there. The response from our headquarters was a bit late, and Alex arrived before it could get there, but just as he did, the headquarters called back saying they would immediately ship them to Alex's company. Alex thanked me, relieved, but I felt guilty. It was hard to apologize enough given the attitude of Kevin, the person in charge. Then Alex's anger turned towards Kevin. "You! This is too rude, don't you think? What's the matter with you?" Kevin, stumbling over his words, said, "I'm the son of the company president. I thought I had to protect this company. She's from headquarters. She doesn't know anything about us and she butts in." Alex stared at Kevin. "So you're the notorious troublemaker, the son of the subsidiary's president. Nothing you did look like protecting the company, and do you know who she is?" Then finally, Kevin looked up at Alex and me. "She's an excellent employee from the headquarters, and she's also the daughter of the president." Hearing this, Kevin turned pale instantly. "The president's daughter?" As he looked at me, I took out my employee ID. "You might not remember because you weren't interested, but my last name is the same as the president's, right? I guess you never thought I could be his daughter since it's a common name. My current position isn't as the president's daughter, but as an instructor. I came here because there were complaints about your behavior." Kevin's face got paler and paler. "As expected, you were doing whatever you wanted, flaunting the fact that you're the son of the subsidiary president. You can't do the work and don't have the skills. You don't listen to your seniors or superiors. But your attitude, that's big. I saw with my own eyes how terrible you are. My coming here was your last chance, but you didn't take it. And you even did such a thing in front of a client." I had no intention of forgetting what Kevin had said to me or the fact that he had kicked me. Alex also said, "I've seen everything. I'll be a witness." Kevin turned pale as a sheet. "No, that's not it. I mean, it's not what you think." He tried to make excuses, but there was nothing he could say. I glared at Kevin and said, "I have no intention of forgiving you and everything you said to the other employees and temps. I'll report it all to headquarters, to the president of the subsidiary, your father. I'll report everything. We'll contact you later about your punishment." Then I went to explain to the other employees. After that, I returned to the headquarters and reported the incident to my father. He regretted having hired Kevin on impulse even though he had interviewed him. Later, the president of the subsidiary, Kevin's father, was also called to the headquarters and we discussed how to handle the situation. As a result, Kevin's salary was reduced because he had caused damage to the company. He complained about it, but his father told him to resign if he didn't like it. Kevin's father didn't know that his son was doing such terrible things. Kevin hid his true nature where his father could see, and his father trusted Kevin, taking his word for it, which only encouraged his behavior. A few days later, on my way home from the company, I was ambushed by Kevin. As soon as he saw me, he grabbed my arm and said, "This is all your fault." Ouch, let go. Even though I cried out, he wasn't going to release me. I was working late and no other employee was around because our going home times didn't overlap. Preparing myself for a punch, I resisted and then I heard a voice. "What are you doing?" It was Alex. He twisted Kevin's hand to save me. Kevin, furious, screamed at me, "Everyone's laughing at me because of you. What are you going to do about it?" I tried to object, but my voice trembled too much to utter a word. Alex then loudly responded, "You've brought this upon yourself. Before blaming others, look at your own behavior. If you had been more responsible, you wouldn't have become the laughingstock." I couldn't hold back and blurted that out, which caused Kevin to attempt to punch me. But just then, the police arrived. A passerby seemed to have reported the incident. Relieved, I collapsed right where I was. My arm, where Kevin had grabbed me, was red. Kevin was taken away by the police and I thanked Alex. I asked, "Why were you here?" And he told me that he had been worried about me ever since our recent reunion. When he had contacted my father and found out I was still at work, he decided to drop by and ask me out for dinner. Come to think of it, Alex and I had not exchanged contact information. Alex took my still trembling hand and said, "But today, I will take you home. Can I ask you for dinner sometime?" I could feel my cheeks reddening as I nodded. Later on, I decided to sue Kevin. However, I accepted a settlement when Kevin's father pleaded with me. In the end, Kevin and his father resigned from the company and left town. I received the settlement money. Kevin's family apparently moved to his father's rural hometown, but they seemed to be having a hard time, given the cold stares from the locals. Kevin's father apologized to me once, but for me, it's all in the past now. As for me, after the incident, I began dating Alex, and we're now preparing for marriage. My father seems happy, but he's worried whether I will have to quit my job when I get married. I love my work, and I also want to build a happy home. Whether I continue working at my father's company or quit to help out Alex's company, I haven't decided yet. But whatever I choose, I believe I will be happy, because after all, I will be with the person I love.